Hello, and welcome to another episode of Facts Matter. Today, we're tackling a question that literally every American is asking right now. Why is everything so expensive? Politicians on both sides love to point fingers. It's the other party's fault. It's corporations. It's immigrants. It's regulations. But what does the data actually show? I'm going to walk you through the numbers from official government sources. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just why things cost so much, but where the money is actually going. And the answer might surprise you. Let's get into it. Here's where we start. What they said versus what the data actually shows. Politicians love to tell you the economy is strong. Inflation is coming down. Wages are rising. Americans have never had it so good. And technically, some of those statements are true. In isolation, though. But here's a reality when you put it all together. The median American household earns $83,000, $730 a year. That's according to the Census Bureau's most recent data. Sounds decent, right? But that's household income, which often means two earners. Let's look at what individuals actually make. The median personal income, all Americans 15 and older, is just $45,140 a year. That's from Fred, using Census Bureau data. Half of all Americans make less than $45,000 a year. If you narrow it to just people who actually have earnings, people who are working, the median is $51,370. And if you narrow it even further to only full-time, year-round workers, people working 35 plus hours a week, 50 plus weeks a year, the median is $63,360 a year. So even the people doing everything right, working full-time all year long, are making $63,000. And the average household spends $61,334 a year just on basic expenses. So when you hear the word affordability crisis, this is what that means. It's not just that prices went up. It's that individual earnings were never designed to keep up. The system assumes two incomes per household just to break even. And if you're single or a single parent or one partner loses a job, the math doesn't work, period. A single person making $45,000 a year against $61,000 in expenses, they can't. They're either going into debt, doubling up with roommates, skipping health care, or not saving a dime. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's a structural failure. After federal and state taxes, which take roughly 22 to 25% off the top for a median earner, even a two-income household is looking at about $500 a month left over. For everything else, savings, emergencies, entertainment, debt payments. And here's the kicker. According to the OECD, average price levels are almost 36% higher than they were in December 2019. Inflation may be coming down, but prices never come back down. They just stop going up as fast. So when politicians say things are getting better, better than what? That's the affordability crisis in one slide. And it connects to everything we're about to show you. The housing shortage, the healthcare costs, the productivity pay gap, the buybacks, all of it feeds the same problem. So where is all the money going? Four categories are eating up the average American household budget. Number one, housing. About 35% of spending goes to housing, roughly $1,784 a month. We have a massive structural shortage. NAHB estimates we need at least 1.2 million more units. Goldman Sachs puts it at 3 to 4 million. Number two, healthcare. 50% of Americans say healthcare takes up 10% or more of their budget, and 30% skip treatment entirely because of costs. Number three, food. About $610 a month. The BLS Food Index jumped 0.7% in December 2025 alone. Prices are still 20 to 25% above pre-pandemic. Number four, childcare. Over $13,000 per child per year, up 30% since 2020 in some states. Childcare costs more than in-state college tuition. These four categories alone can consume 70 to 80% of a typical family's take-home pay. Let's go deeper on housing, the single biggest driver of the affordability crisis. The shortage is real. NAHB estimates 1.2 million additional units. Goldman Sachs says 3 to 4 million. The Washington Post reported estimates range from 0 to 20 million homes. Why can't we build more? 60% of residential land is restricted to 2 to 3 story buildings. Only 7% allows 5 plus stories. 5 plus stories. Mortgage rates have doubled from around 3% to above 6.5%. On a $400,000 home, that's an extra $700 to $800 a month. Construction plunged after 2008 and never fully recovered. Restrictive zoning, labor shortages, rising material costs, investor purchases, a perfect storm. Here's something most people don't talk about. Physical goods, TVs, phones, clothes, have gotten dramatically cheaper. Automation and global supply chains have actually makes production cheaper every year. But services, healthcare, education, childcare, housing construction have gotten massively more expensive. Economists call this BOMO's cost disease. BOMO's cost disease. You can automate a factory, but you can't automate a nurse, a teacher, or a carpenter. As wages rise, these labor-intensive services get more expensive every year. And policy makes it worse. The government subsidizes demand, giving people more money to pay for things without increasing supply. More money chasing the same number of hospital beds, houses, college seats. That's a recipe for higher prices. The Nishkanin Center causes cost disease socialism. Since 1979, productivity has gone up roughly 90%, but typical worker pay has gone up only about 33%. Productivity grew almost 3 times faster than pay. According to EPI, excuse me, if medium hourly compensation had kept pace with productivity since 1979, the typical worker would be making $9 more per hour, about $18,700 a year left on the table. This was driven by intentional policy choices, declining unions, stagnant minimum wage, trade policies favoring corporate mobility, tax policies shifting to favor capital over labor. The pie got bigger, your slice didn't. Three numbers tell the story. First, labor's share of national income has fallen to about 53 to 54%, the lowest since records began in 1947. Second, S&P 500 companies are spending over $1 trillion per year on stock buybacks, money returned to shareholders to boost stock prices. Third, at the 100 largest low-wage corporations, the average CEO to worker pay ratio hit 632 to 1 in 2024. Average CEO compensation, 17.2 million. Median worker pay, $35,570, which didn't even keep up with inflation. This is where the money went, not into your paycheck, into stock buybacks and executive compensation. Lowe's spent $42.6 billion on stock buybacks between 2019 and 2024. With that same money, listen carefully, they could have given every single one of their 273,000 employees an annual bonus of $28,456 for 6 straight years. Let that sink in for a minute. Instead, the median Lowe's worker made $30,606 in 2024. CEO Marvin Ellison made $20.2 million, 659 times the median worker's pay. At 56 of the 100 largest low-wage companies, stock buyback spending exceeded capital expenditures. They spent more on inflating their stock price than investing in their actual business. The 100 largest low-wage corporations collectively spent $644 billion on buybacks over 6 years. Those buybacks were once illegal, legalized in 1982. Every dollar on buybacks is a dollar not spent on workers. Is it corporate greed? The data said just part of the story. A groundwork collaborative analysis found that elevated corporate profit margins accounted for about 53% of inflation in mid-2023. Compare that to just 11% historically. It works through 3 channels. First, concentrated industry, where few big players raise prices in lockstep. Second, cost shocks as cover. Pandemic, energy spikes, tariffs give ready-made justification to raise prices, and when costs normalize, prices don't come back down. Third, investor pressure. Executives tell Wall Street about expanding margins, not passing savings to consumers. Greed didn't create inflation out of nowhere, but once the fire started, some big firms poured gasoline on it and kept that extra profits. Structural fixtures that would actually move the needle: build more housing, reform zoning, incentivize construction. Goldman Sachs simulated relaxing regulations to match the least restrictive 25% of cities. The result of that was 2.5 million more homes in a decade, eliminating 2/3 of the shortage. Fix healthcare, price transparency, antitrust enforcement, tackle admin bloat, rethink subsidies, stop throwing money at demand without increasing supply. Tariff transparency. Harvard's pricing lab confirms tariffs raise consumer costs, make the trade-offs honest. Here's my take. If corporate profits rise, it should be mandatory that workers get a share, period. It's just fair. Those profits would not have happened without those workers. There is no company without workers, and there are no workers without company. So both need each other because your company would not exist if you didn't have workers, and the workers wouldn't, be able to generate income if they didn't have any place to work. So they both work hand in hand. 3 reasons. Fairness. Workers take real risks while shareholders enjoy record profits. Labor's share is at historical historic lows. Economic logic. When workers have money, they spend it. That drives demand, which drives more profits. A virtuous cycle versus the buyback loop. Stability. Workers who share in good years buy into hard changes. Tech upgrades, process improvement. It builds trust. Concrete idea. For, for publicly traded companies above a certain size, if after-tax profits grow faster than inflation, a fixed share, say 20 to 30% of incremental profit, must go into a worker pool, paid as bonuses or profit sharing, proportional across the workforce, which caps with caps, so the top doesn't take it all. Capital still gets a healthy return, but workers automatically participate in the upside they helped create. This isn't anti-business, it's just pro-stability. When you live in this country completely changes, or where you live in this country completely changes the math. Look at the cost of living index. The national average is 100. Hawaii is at 185, almost double. New York is at 148. California is at 140. Massachusetts at 135. And then you have Oklahoma at 86. That means the same salary buys you completely different lives depending on your zip code. Now look at what Smart Asset says a family of 4 actually needs to live comfortably. In New York, $318,406. Massachusetts, $313,747,000. But in Oklahoma, $180,000. That's a $138,000 gap just based on geography. Same family size, same basic needs, wildly different price tags. And remember, the median household income in America is $83,730. That's not even close to comfortable in most of these high cost states. The gap between what people earn and what it actually costs to live is not a talking point. It's math. Here's the bottom line. Prices are up 36% since 2019. Wages didn't keep up. Productivity grew almost 3 times faster than worker pay since 1979. Labor's share of income is at its lowest point since 1947. The 100 biggest low-wage corporations spent $64 billion on stock buybacks. The economy got bigger. Your slice got smaller. It's just the math. The data is clear. If you find this useful, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Talk to you soon in the next video. Be safe out there. Take care. Bye-bye.